3 hours ago, the Storm Prediction Center did something that stops meteorologists in their tracks. They upgraded nearly all of Iowa from a slight risk to an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5, covering more than 9 million people. That upgrade happened because the tornado component just got added to a forecast that was previously only flagging hail and wind. Now, tornadoes are on the table tonight, and that is just Friday. On Saturday, hailstones up to 3 inches in diameter and a strong tornado are both possible across Nebraska, Kansas, and the Missouri Valley for more than 5 million people. On Sunday, the enhanced risk continues with MLKP values approaching 2,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram and a 50-knot low-level jet firing into evening. And on Monday, the Storm Prediction Center is using words that forecasters almost never put in a Day 4-8 document. A severe weather outbreak will be possible. 6 days, 6 consecutive days of severe weather and tornado potential from the plains to the Mississippi Valley. The new forecast just turned dangerous, and this is Weather Signal. The most important development in this forecast happened this morning, and it happened fast. The NWS Storm Prediction Center issued an updated forecast that showed nearly all of Iowa had been upgraded from a slight risk to an enhanced risk for severe weather on Friday for an area that encompasses more than 9 million people. That upgrade is not routine. An upgrade from slight to enhanced on the same day a severe weather event is occurring means that new data, whether from morning weather balloon launches, updated high-resolution model runs, or evolving surface observations, gave forecasters enough confidence to move the probability assessment up an entire level. In meteorological terms, it means the atmosphere is coming together more aggressively than models suggested even 12 hours ago. The NWS Storm Prediction Center posted on X, "An active severe thunderstorm pattern is expected through early next week. Multiple days of severe storms are expected across portions of the plains to the mid-upper Mississippi Valley, starting today, Thursday 5/14, and persisting through Tuesday 5/19. 6 days. That statement from the Storm Prediction Center is as close to a formal multi-day outbreak declaration as the agency makes. It is the operational equivalent of a standing alarm for an entire region stretching from the southern plains northward through the upper Mississippi Valley. The WPC's short-range forecast discussion confirmed an enhanced risk of severe thunderstorms across much of Iowa, with a slight risk extending down to the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles. The geographic stretch of that risk corridor, from Iowa all the way down to the Texas panhandle, is enormous. It is not a narrow zone. It is an atmospheric battleground stretching roughly 800 miles from north to south, where the volatile boundary between cool, dry air from the Rockies and warm, tropical Gulf moisture creates the conditions that produce every category of severe weather simultaneously: tornadoes, very large hail, and damaging straight-line winds. Extreme meteorologist Reed Timmer posted on X on Thursday, "Multi-day tornado outbreak possible across the central U.S." Peaking Sunday, Monday. We have 6 days in a row of severe weather and tornado potential, starting with a guerrilla hail threat in central Kansas this evening, with the central and southern plains to upper Midwest having a full-blown tornado outbreak Saturday evening through Tuesday morning. The phrase guerrilla hail is not scientific language, but it communicates what the SPC's technical parameters are showing: extreme hail-producing potential in an environment where updraft speeds could sustain stones reaching 3 inches in diameter or larger. Let us focus on what is happening right now tonight across Iowa, because the forecast upgrade that occurred this morning means conditions are already deteriorating, and the most dangerous period is approaching. Severe thunderstorms capable of producing severe and damaging winds and large to very large hail are likely late this afternoon and evening across much of Iowa and vicinity. Isolated to scattered severe hail and damaging winds are possible over a broader area from parts of the southern high plains to the upper Midwest. Storms will begin around 5 p.m. this afternoon in northwestern Iowa and move southeast through the state. Storms should exit the area around 4 a.m. Saturday morning. Large hail and damaging winds are the primary threats. Damaging wind gusts of around 75 millimeters are possible, with severe storms, although some uncertainty exists with the western extent of the damaging wind risk. A brief tornado or two and large hail up to 2 inches are also possible with any severe storms that develop. 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts, let me put that in perspective. The threshold for hurricane force winds begins at 74 miles per hour. Tonight's Iowa severe thunderstorm threat is capable of producing wind gusts that meet or exceed Category 1 hurricane wind speed, not in a tropical storm, but in a mid-latitude thunderstorm complex crossing the state at 50 miles per hour. And unlike a hurricane, which gives days of warning and has a track that forecasters follow for a week in advance, a squall line producing 75 km/h gusts crosses an individual community in 15 to 20 minutes. The warning time is real, but the action window is extremely short. Initial thunderstorm development will likely be supercellular and capable of all hazards, including large to very large hail, damaging wind, and tornadoes. As the front sags southward through the evening, eventual upscale growth into a squall line is expected by the evening. A strong 50-knot low-level jet will ramp up into the evening, which may support a continuing potential for tornadoes, some of which may be strong. Strong tornadoes from a squall line at night. This is the nighttime Dixie Alley problem occurring now in Iowa. When a squall line produces embedded supercells or mesovortices at night, rotating circulations embedded within the linear structure, those tornadoes are extraordinarily difficult to see, even for people who are awake and watching the sky. Rain-wrapped, fast-moving, and embedded in a larger complex of heavy rain and lightning, these nighttime linear tornadoes are among the deadliest weather phenomena in the central United States. If you are in Iowa tonight and you go to sleep before 4 a.m. without an active weather alert system, you are trusting your life to luck. As the Iowa system exits Saturday morning, attention immediately shifts to what is developing across the Central Plains Saturday afternoon. And what is developing is a setup that forecasters have been tracking carefully for days because the parameters are exceptional. Across the Central Plains, strong daytime heating is expected to yield moderate to strong instability across much of the Central Plains. This, in combination with strong deep layer shear, suggests a rather volatile environment, particularly across central Nebraska into southern South Dakota and northwestern Iowa. Guidance suggests that thunderstorms will develop across eastern Colorado into Nebraska by the afternoon. Initial thunderstorm development will likely be supercellular and capable of all hazards, including large to very large hail, damaging wind, and tornadoes. As the front sags southward through the evening, eventual upscale growth into a squall line is expected by the evening. Severe storms capable of large to very large hail, wind damage, and tornadoes will be possible. Saturday afternoon and evening across parts of the Central Plains and lower to mid-Missouri Valley. Hailstones up to 3 inches in diameter and a strong tornado will be possible. More than 4. 5 million people reside within the highest risk area. Omaha, Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, Des Moines, Iowa, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and Topeka, Kansas, are some larger population centers within the greatest risk area. 3-inch hail. To understand what a 3-inch hailstone actually does, you need the physics. A hailstone at 3 inches in diameter weighs approximately a quarter of a pound and falls at terminal velocity exceeding 90 miles per hour. It does not bounce. It impacts. And in a severe hailstorm, thousands of these fall per square meter in under 2 minutes. The result for any vehicle caught outside is total destruction of the windshield, catastrophic denting and cracking of the body panels, and, in many cases, shattering of the side and rear glass as well. For crops in the field, and Nebraska and Kansas are both in active planting season, 3-inch hail can destroy an entire field of winter wheat, corn seedlings, or emerging soybeans in the time it takes to run from the field to your truck. A broad warm sector will be in place across much of the Central Plains, with low to mid-60s dew points reaching as far north as southern Nebraska. ML Cape, around 2,000 to 2,500 Harald or J kilos, will be common by the afternoon. Initially, strong deep layer shear and largely linear hotographs will support potential for supercells capable of large to very large hail, damaging winds, and a tornado. Dew points in the low to mid-60s reaching southern Nebraska in the second week of May represent tropical character moisture, well north of its typical position at this time of year. That moisture availability is the fuel that allows ML Cape values to reach 2,000 to 2,500 J kilos, well into the range that produces significant severe weather. Now here is where the forecast becomes truly alarming, because the language the Storm Prediction Center used in their day, 4.8 discussion issued Friday morning, is language that meteorologists only write when they have genuine confidence that a significant outbreak is coming. A severe weather outbreak will be possible from Monday afternoon into the evening and overnight period. On Monday, the western trough will take on a negative tilt before ejecting across the Central Plains with strong southwesterly flow aloft, overspreading the region. This will result in strong lee cyclone development across western Kansas. A surface cold front will extend northward to a secondary surface low across the upper Midwest. A dry line will extend southward across portions of western Kansas into western Oklahoma. Numerous thunderstorms are expected to develop along and ahead of the cold front and further south along the dry line Monday afternoon and evening from Nebraska into central Kansas. Given the volatile air mass ahead of these features, with moderate to strong instability and strengthening deep layer shear, initial development will likely be supercellular. Sunday brings an enhanced risk level 3 of 5 to northwestern Iowa with a slight risk level 2 of 5 for much of central Iowa. Scattered non-severe thunderstorms are possible throughout the day on Sunday, ahead of any severe storms that develop in the afternoon. The highest severe weather threat is generally north of Highway 92. The language, ahead of any severe storms that develop in the afternoon, is the meteorological description of the cap bust scenario, the one that produces the most violent and most dangerous severe weather. When elevated, non-severe storms develop all morning across an area, and then a cap suppresses further development for hours, the atmosphere loads silently underneath. Surface temperatures climb, dew points surge, ML Cape builds, and when the cap finally breaks in the afternoon, every storm that fires does so explosively and simultaneously into a maximally charged environment. The Fox Forecast Center said the severe weather outbreak is expected to develop Monday afternoon ahead of a cold front and dry line. These storms will move into warm, moist, and unstable air, an environment that is perfect for severe weather to ignite. It is expected that supercells will produce possible tornadoes on Monday. Fox Weather added the critical conditional that defines the upper bound of Monday's threat. Forecasters say the intensity of Monday's severe storms will depend on how Sunday's storms unfold. If the storms are not as widespread across the plains, more moisture and instability may stream into the lower Mississippi Valley, potentially supporting a higher-end severe weather event on Monday. This is the amplification mechanism. If Sunday's storms leave the moist sector relatively untouched, if they do not scour out the low-level moisture or establish unfavorable outflow boundaries, then Monday inherits an even more loaded atmosphere than what the current forecast shows. A level 3 out of 5 risk of severe storm threat covers parts of the Midwest and Mississippi Valley, including 8 states such as Missouri, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Forecasters say St. Louis, Missouri could see some of the greatest impacts. Meanwhile, a broader level 2 out of 5 risk stretches from the Central Plains through the Ohio Valley and into the southeast, including major cities such as Chicago, Indianapolis, Memphis, and Little Rock. Chicago, Indianapolis, Memphis, Little Rock. St. Louis, these are not small towns in rural Kansas. These are major metropolitan areas with millions of residents, millions of vehicles on roads, and storm shelter infrastructure that varies enormously from neighborhood to neighborhood. When a multi-day outbreak of this scale targets those population centers, the potential for significant casualties and economic damage is not theoretical. It is the direct operational reality that emergency managers in those cities are preparing for right now. To understand why the forecast keeps turning dangerous week after week, you need to understand where 2026 stands in the historical record of severe weather activity. 2026 is already on a record pace for severe weather activity. The only year that started out with more was 2006, which brought a horrible outbreak of tornadoes in March to up the numbers. Record pace. That phrase deserves to sink in. Not above average, not an active season. Record pace. Only one year in the modern era of severe weather documentation began with more accumulated severe weather activity than 2026 has already produced by mid-May. The Wikipedia Tornadoes of 2026 page documents the full arc of this season's destruction. A significant tornado outbreak took place on April 17, 18. A moderate risk of severe weather for significant winds of up to 90 millimalaric, along with a risk of very large hail up to 3 to 3. 5 inches was issued on April 17th by the SPC, stretching from northern Oklahoma into southeastern Kansas and western Missouri. An elevated tornado threat was also forecasted with EF3+ tornadoes possible in northeast Iowa, northwest Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and extreme southeastern Minnesota. And then, a high-end EF2 tornado hit Lena, Illinois, in Stevenson County. The storm caused widespread damage in the town, knocking down trees and power lines that blocked roads. The town was closed to outside traffic Friday night into Saturday due to storm cleanup and blocked roads. NWS confirmed the most significant damage was reported on Grove Street, where 3 houses lost their roofs and 2 homes had part of their exterior walls collapse. Then, April 28th added an EF3 near Mineral Wells, Texas, with hail up to 4. 5 inches in Johnson County and 99 total confirmed tornadoes in the April 23-28 sequence. Then Mississippi on May 6th with its EF3 wedge tornado growing to 1, 17 miles wide. Some parts of the Midwest, particularly Illinois, have already experienced a particularly damaging tornado season, with more than 100 twisters reported so far this year, far above the state's yearly average. Illinois and at least 10 other states across the plains and Midwest will again see an increased chance of damaging and even deadly tornadoes over the next week, according to the forecasts. More than 100 tornadoes in Illinois alone by mid-May. That is the baseline from which this week's 6-day outbreak sequence is launching. Beyond this week's immediate outbreak, there's a longer-term signal that has been building in the meteorological data, and that every person living between Texas and the Great Lakes needs to understand. Latest oceanic data reveals the 2026 Super El Nino is trending toward record-breaking strength, signaling a major atmospheric reset and a shift in global weather patterns for the year ahead. The projected 2026 intensification is currently outpacing the evolution of the 1997 and 2015 Super El Nino events. This signals a high-impact transition for the global atmosphere, also known as a code red atmospheric scenario. Most ensemble members exceed this boundary, aiming for a historical event, if verified. 3 different forecasts from different continents and from different modeling authorities. NOAA CFSV2 from the United States, the European ECMWF, and the Australian BOM, yet all agree that we are heading for a strong event in 2026 and 2027. When 3 independent modeling systems from 3 different continents all converge on the same signal, that is not model noise. That is genuine atmospheric consensus. The 3 most sophisticated weather prediction systems on Earth are all saying the same thing. A super El Nino of potentially record-breaking strength is developing and accelerating. WFLA-TV chief meteorologist and climate specialist Jeff Baradelli stated, "I think we're going to see weather events that we've never seen in modern history before." That is not casual hyperbole from a local meteorologist. That is a certified broadcast meteorologist at a major television station, summarizing what the data is showing for the months ahead. A super El Nino event would lead to more extreme weather shifts, turning typical seasonal changes into high-impact events like massive flooding, severe droughts, and significantly altered storm tracks that can affect the entire planet. The severe weather context for the United States is specific. AccuWeather's Paul Pastlock identified severe weather as expected to be most active in June and July from the plains to the Midwest and Ohio Valley. The flooding zone to watch most closely runs from Texas to the Ohio Valley, including the Texas Hill Country devastated by the July 4th, 2025 flash floods that killed more than 100 people and caused between $18 and $22 billion in economic damage. Flash flood events are expected in parts of the Plains, Mississippi Valley, and Ohio Valley at higher frequency this summer. This week's 6-day outbreak is not the peak of the 2026 severe weather season. Based on what every major forecasting institution on Earth is showing, we have not reached the peak yet. The WPC Extended Forecast discussion issued at 3:20 a.m. Friday morning carries a headline that deserves to be read in full. Multiple rounds of heavy rain and severe storms expected for the plains, an early season heat wave for the East Coast, 2 simultaneous extremes in the same week. The plains dealing with 6 consecutive days of life-threatening severe weather, while the East Coast bakes in an early season heat wave. These 2 features are not competing. They are both driven by the same amplified upper-level pattern, a deep trough over the western United States, maintaining a sharp temperature and moisture contrast with the warm, humid air mass building over the eastern half of the country. An amplified upper-level pattern will be in place for the beginning of next week, with an anomalous ridge over the east-central U.S. supporting an early-season heat wave, and a strong trough over the Rockies that will bring a round of late-season snow for the higher elevations of Colorado and Wyoming. At the interface of these 2 features will be a strong cold front that will be crossing the plains and Midwest with multiple rounds of heavy rainfall and strong and severe thunderstorms. Snow in Colorado, heat wave on the East Coast, 6 days of severe weather in between. This is the definition of an amplified, extreme atmospheric pattern, one where every region of the country is experiencing something at the far end of the weather spectrum simultaneously. On Wednesday and Thursday next week, the cold front is forecast to move southeastward across the southern plains and mid-Mississippi Valley, extending east-northeastward into the mid-Atlantic. A severe threat could develop along and ahead of the front each afternoon and evening, Wednesday and Thursday. That extends the active severe weather window, not just through Tuesday as currently being widely reported, but potentially through midweek next week as the front continues its southeastward progression. That is potentially 8 or 9 consecutive days of severe weather threat across some portion of the central and southern United States. 2026 is producing a storm season without pauses. For Iowa residents tonight, the enhanced risk is active and deteriorating conditions are already developing. The storm complex is expected to enter northwestern Iowa around 5 p.m. and exit the state around 4 a.m. Saturday. That is an 11-hour window of potential severe weather overnight. Keep your phone alerts enabled and the volume fully raised. If you go to sleep tonight before the system exits, make sure you have a NOAA weather radio with a battery backup alarm. Know where your shelter is before you need it. The enhanced risk means tornadoes are now specifically on the table, not just hail and wind. Treat tonight with the same seriousness you would give a tornado watch. For Nebraska, Kansas, and the Missouri Valley through Saturday, your preparation window is right now, Friday afternoon and evening, while Iowa's storm complex is still to the north. By Saturday afternoon, supercells will be firing across eastern Colorado and Nebraska, capable of hailstones up to 3 inches and a strong tornado. If your vehicle is outside and cannot be moved to a covered structure, make peace with the possibility of hail damage. Your safety in a tornado is infinitely more important than your vehicle. More than 5 million people are in the highest risk zone. Saturday, Omaha, Lincoln, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, and Topeka are the major population centers specifically named in the threat area. If you live in or near any of those cities, Saturday's severe weather threat is not a background story. It is the primary story. For everyone from the Missouri Valley through the Ohio Valley and into the Mid-Atlantic, targeting Sunday through Tuesday, use the remainder of this week as preparation time. Identify your shelter. Verify that your emergency alerts are enabled on every device in your household. Have a communication plan with your family. Stock emergency supplies. Know which roads in your area tend to flood. And commit to the life-saving rule that requires no meteorological knowledge whatsoever. Never drive through water on a road, regardless of how shallow it appears. The forecast just turned dangerous. Not gradually, not in a way that gives weeks of preparation time, but in the space of a single morning, with the SPC upgrading Iowa to enhanced risk and a 6-day outbreak declaration covering the entire central United States, from the southern plains to the upper Mississippi Valley. Tornadoes tonight in Iowa. 3-inch hail and a strong tornado Saturday across Nebraska and Kansas. A full severe weather outbreak possible Sunday through Monday across 8 states. And then the cold front continues into the mid-Atlantic by midweek. Weather Signal is going to be tracking every hour of this 6-day sequence in real time. Hit subscribe right now and turn your notifications fully on, because when the SPC starts upgrading Saturdays and Sundays risk areas from slight to enhanced to moderate, and when tornado watches start getting issued across Nebraska and Kansas tomorrow afternoon, you need to see those updates the moment they drop, not hours later. Share this video immediately with anyone you know in Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, or anywhere in that vast corridor from the southern plains to the Great Lakes. The preparation window is closing by the hour. The new forecast just turned dangerous, the outbreak is already beginning, and the peak of this multi-day sequence is still ahead. Hit that like button so this reaches more people before tonight's storms arrive in Iowa. Stay weather aware. Stay sheltered when warnings are issued. Weather Signal will be back with updates as this outbreak unfolds. We will see you in the next forecast.